House Republicans are grappling with a challenging reality. Their efforts to pass spending bills are faltering. When they return in September from a 6-week recess, they are likely to need a stopgap funding measure to keep the government running. As September approaches, not only will a funding stopgap be necessary, but discussions regarding a supplemental disaster relief package will also need attention. These challenges prompt a critical look at whether the GOP can unify enough to govern effectively, protect the nation's interests, and prevent a shutdown. For weeks, GOP leaders tried to push through critical spending bills, but hit roadblocks within their own party. They had hoped to pass all 12 bills that would fund the government before their August break. However, internal disagreements and a slim majority led to the cancellation of key votes, forcing them to face the prospect of another continuing resolution to keep federal operations afloat. Frustration is evident on both sides. Republican Rep. Drew Ferguson of Georgia anticipates another continuing resolution, CR, following the election, while Democratic Rep. Rosa DeLauro sees it as the only viable option. The need for a stopgap has grown as previous efforts to pass financial services and agriculture funding bills failed, along with attempts to fund energy and water projects. Speaker Mike Johnson, a Republican from Louisiana, downplayed the early recess, suggesting that members needed time to regroup and campaign. But the adversity in passing these bills might tell a more complex story about internal GOP conflicts and the inefficacy of their narrow majority. One highlight for conservatives is their proposal to have a CR extend until March, making sure a massive unwanted spending package doesn't get rushed just before the holidays. GOP Rep. Scott Perry expressed this sentiment strongly, signaling a desire to avoid being pressured into a holiday crunch. On the other hand, Democratic leaders like Hakeem Jeffries criticized the GOP majority, labeling them ineffective. Democrats argue that the Republicans spent valuable time attacking President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris rather than solving pressing issues. They maintain that Republicans' internal chaos is obstructing progress, leading to a likely stopgap resolution. Despite these struggles, the House managed to pass a $95.3 billion emergency supplemental aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, along with legislation impacting TikTok and renewing a U.S. surveillance program. This marks some success amidst their broader difficulties, but highlights the selective focus and priorities within the GOP ranks. As the House breaks for recess, the outlook remains uncertain. Upon returning, lawmakers will have scant weeks to sort their issues before the fiscal year ends on October 1st. As such, they face a pressing need to agree on a stopgap to prevent a government shutdown. The Speaker's office stressed that the House had made more progress on appropriations than the Senate, yet there's no denying the internal disputes frustrating their legislative efficacy. Republican Rep. Chuck Fleischmann pointed out specific disputes over local projects like the Savannah Harbor deepening in Georgia, highlighting the difficulties in balancing local and national priorities with limited funds. Such conflicts underscore the arduous path ahead in achieving cohesive funding agreements.